Okay.
Hey guys, so I'm here with Sam today. Sam's from China, and we're going to answer some questions, talk a little bit about stuff. Can you guys hear Sam okay? If you can, I have a microphone on me, but it should also pick up Sam. I don't think you need to actually talk
I don't think
to my chest, but it's okay. I don't know if you guys have seen, but about 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago,
Summertime.
Sam and I did a video together talking about Sam's English. That's Mushroom in the background, cleaning. She's sweeping the floor.
The cleaning
Hey, Mushroom.
Hey. Cleaning wife.
Hey, Seek is here. And you talked about, you remember what you talked about?
We're talking about how to learn English and the importance of learning English.
Sam's English is really good. So you shared some useful tips. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you check it out. I'll try to put it in the link in the description after we post this, so you can definitely check that out. We'll wait to have a few more people before we answer questions, but actually we were going to talk about some cultural differences. Because you're from China, from the south of China. I'm from the USA. And so I thought it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about some of the differences in working style and work culture between China and the US. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So actually, I'm just curious. You've been here quite a few times. You've worked with a lot of people abroad outside of China. In your experience, what's the difference between the working, just some of the main differences between the working style, not of the companies, but of the people? For example, Americans versus Chinese, or British people versus Chinese. I'm just curious about some of the differences you've noticed, because you deal with a lot of international sort of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest difference, I would say that from my observation, what I can tell is that, for example, the people from the United States, when I'm working with the people there, from my understanding is that the company going to really respect the individuality of the employees.
Yeah, each person's rights and your benefits and how you feel.
Yeah, especially how you feel.
Yeah,
and especially
your emotions.
Emotions, or they do care. They don't want you to work. They don't want you to work over hours and stuff.
Yeah.
They pay attention to the efficiency.
That's a legal thing. If you work over 40 hours, you legally have to pay your employees overtime pay.
Yeah. I mean, in China, it's not the same thing. I'm not saying it's bad, but I mean, the competition in China is kind of fierce.
Yeah.
That everybody would just want to climbing up, want to get the higher position or better salary. As you guys know, that we get huge population, which means, I mean, everybody just wants to get there.
1.6 billion people, right?
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
I think it's 1.6 billion. I think it's a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty tough. Like if you're working in China as a Chinese, that if you want to have a really nice salary and a nice position, that you need to queue for it.
So it's almost like, you want to get this, you need to make some sacrifices.
You need to make a lot of sacrifices.
So don't you dare ask for overtime pay or extra things like that? Is that?
Well, I mean, I can put my experience as an example.
Do you work have you ever worked 60 hours a week?
Yeah, no, I mean,
50 hours a week?
Let me count. 10 hour, 11, I mean, maybe 55 hours a week.
And did they pay you extra for that?
No.
So they just expect you to do that.
They expect it. They take it as a, I mean, you
it's
should
a given.
do that.
Didn't Jack Ma didn't he say something about that? And that was a controversy. Jack Ma said something like, that's just how it works here, or something like that. 6 days a week.
Yeah. It's kind of a blast if you get the chance that you can work like 6 days and 12 hours a day.
So it's an unspoken thing. It's not like you have to do this, but if you don't do it, then everyone's going to give you a hard time.
Yeah, people are going to give you a hard time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're going to be kicked out of the company. Yeah, that's the problem. But I mean, that reflect my memory. One thing is that because in August, I went to Germany for a business trip. And I talked to my boss, hey, because my flight gonna arrive Shanghai Monday morning Sunday.
Yeah.
So I talked to her like, hey, I want to have a 1 day break for Monday.
Just for
Just,
sightseeing,
you know,
check out Germany. It's one of the
yes.
benefits of being
Or
an international businessman like
yeah, I just
yourself.
want to have a 1 day
A
off.
very, very important man.
Yeah, and then she said like, no, you need to go back to the office.
Oh my
You
God.
need to work.
Oh my
You need
God.
to work. There's no talk on this topic.
That's pretty strict.
That's pretty strict. But I mean, yeah, I survive.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe that has to do something with I don't know how to say this, the status is the wrong word too. What stage the country's in a way. You know, America, we've been considered a developed country for a very long time. And so it's sort of to a point where all of the working hours stuff is established, there are regulations, there are rules, it's all set. And then now we start thinking, okay, well, what do we do next? We got to have our benefits, all that stuff. Unions form, and I'm not saying unions are great. Unions are very important, but I think maybe that's one difference is that China's still on the way towards something, and so right now it's just about succeeding and getting stuff done.
Yeah. Then that's the thing about the positive way is that I think in this path, so basically you're gonna push your limits.
Yeah.
You're gonna, eventually you're gonna do something that you might believe that, hey, I cannot handle this. If somebody gonna push you further and you realize, hey, I can do this.
Right.
So that's a positive thing, and that really
individually and kind of as a country too, right? I mean, China is developing at a really, really fast pace, and so it's kind of the same thing on both levels for the individual and for the whole country, and the rate of progress is really quick.
Yeah. So maybe that's the reason why China is.
Has there ever been something where there was a major misunderstanding between you and another person by email, or maybe because of an assumption, a cultural thing? You mentioned to me the other day you had a coworker come in from the United States, and he said, this is a simple example, but he said, I think it's rude now that I'm in China that people don't look me in the eyes as often. I think that's rude. Where actually he's coming to China, he should kind of probably accept that in China that's not very important. Other things are important, and he needs to pay attention to what those things are so that he can adapt and get used to the Chinese work culture. Right?
I shared the story with you. There's a background there because he is Chinese American.
Chinese American,
which means he was raised by a Chinese family, and which means that he should get the fundamental or basic understanding about the Chinese culture.
Right.
Which means, when you communicate or talk with the Chinese people, it's kind of a regular thing in China. That's the thing happening in China.
There's an understanding.
Yeah, there's an understanding that you do not have the direct eye contact communication with the people.
Yeah, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
You get to look at their noses. It's nose contact.
From time to time, So that's kind of, I was not really understand why he just delivered that kind of comment.
If he grew up with a Chinese mom, dad, both parents Chinese.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he know some of that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he speaks Chinese as well.
Perfectly.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
But maybe it also is experience, because when I was 22, I moved to China. And I didn't know any of that stuff, and I made all kinds of faux pas. Faux pas, if you guys don't know, it's a French word, F-A-U-X-P-A-S, 2 words actually. It means a sort of social mistake. I can't even count how many faux pas I made when I first came to China. Just the simple stuff, putting my chopsticks in the rice and not lifting my glass high enough, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And over time, after you look stupid 1,000 times, you start to realize, okay, they do this and they do that, and so I'm here in another country, so I should start doing those things too. That's one thing that I think is really important about any sort of international relationship or travel situation. When you go somewhere and you're in that country, and you say to yourself, this is how I understand the world, and anything that conflicts with my understanding of the world is weird, then you're going to have a tough time, I would say, traveling, business, and in life in general. It's important to, when you get to a new place, have your ears open, have your eyes open, and say to yourself, I don't know everything. In fact, I'm in a new place. I might not know anything. And if I just insist on my way of thinking and my way of doing things, then I might not make any friends. And one thing I noticed when I was in China is that a lot of the expats, which are people who live in another country, other Americans, for example, a lot of them would get together with only each other, meet other Americans, and meet other people from the same country, which I understand. Connect with people who you know. That's comfortable, but then it kind of showed me what I didn't want to do, which is really get into the culture and learn it and understand it, because that's one of the best parts about travel.
Yeah. You need to blend in.
Blend in. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You need to, because if you want to explore the new culture or have the new experience, that you need to learn and get involved, and then you can understand the stuff going on there.
You visited here. You visited New York twice. Is there anything staying with me? Sam's staying at our house. Is there anything staying here that you've kind of noticed that you thought, oh, that's interesting, or that's new, or that's weird, or that's different? I wasn't aware of that.
I mean, talking about your apartment or the general New York stuff?
Anything.
Remember yesterday we were walking on the street, and a bunch of people riding bicycles and stuff and screaming on the street, and that's something beyond my imagination.
But
that's like and they were screaming like really bad words.
But that's
kind of something.
Well, New York is a crazy place, and you'll see old ladies who are very conservative and would never do anything like that, and then you'll see crazy people on bicycles popping wheelies and screaming at strangers. You'll see every possible thing you can imagine, because that's what I wouldn't let that tell you what America is, because that's not America, that's New York. That's the reason I like to live in New York, is that it's so weird, it's so different, it's so diverse. You can meet people from all over the world, that it's like a microcosm of the entire planet, and you never know what you're going to see.
Yeah.
That was cool, though.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it was something like, hey, this is some stuff that cannot
I
happen
would never
in
see
China.
this in China.
Yeah, they're gonna be caught, and
there's a video of those. I don't know if it's the same group, but a similar group. I think it's a subculture, and they go into shopping centers, and they ride their bikes in shopping centers and knock stuff out of people's hands and scream at them. I don't think they hurt anybody, but their focus is chaos, causing chaos.
because they believe it's fun.
They think it's fun. They enjoy it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
They were saying
I didn't see the fun point.
terrible No, I know. I'm saying they think it's fun. I agree. I don't think it's fun either. One of the things we were talking about this morning during breakfast was that movie American Factory, which we've both seen. So if you guys haven't seen this movie, it's in America. If you're here in the U.S., it's on Netflix, and I'm sure you can find it elsewhere. But it's a really good documentary, and it shows some interesting cultural differences between the U.S. and China, especially. And it's about a wealthy. Who's that?
Mushroom just.
It's about a wealthy Chinese billionaire entrepreneur who starts a factory producing glass for windshields in the United States, with something like 80% American workers and 20% Chinese workers. Cultural differences between them, and the issues that happen between the management and the workers. Then they go over to China and they look at the Chinese factories. So you saw that movie. I'm curious about as from the Chinese perspective, from your perspective, how did that movie make you feel, and what were your takeaways from the movie?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting movie. One thing is that that movie made me reflect like how the real situation like happening in China now. So one thing, if you guys didn't watch the movie, you definitely need to watch it.
You guys have to watch it. It's really good.
And,
American Factory.
Produced
by Barack Obama.
So yeah, I mean that's a cool movie. It's about like make me to think like, hey, I'm working in a Chinese company, and the movie reflects some facts that's going on in Chinese companies. Like they want everybody just on the same direction
Yeah.
and focus on one thing. But
You
on
mean
the
in the
other
Chinese
hand,
company?
in a Chinese company, but in United States, like the people employees who are as Americans, they have a really strong sense about individuality.
Individual, yeah,
They
their own.
really want
yeah.
to fight for their own rights and stuff. They want to get involved of the labor unions and stuff, right?
They wanted to start a labor
Yeah.
union. Yeah.
And so a lot of conflicts and the cultural differences. It's pretty interesting to see the stuff going on the plates.
Did you feel it was fair that the documentary filmmakers represented each side fairly? Did you feel that one side
With a
was,
bias?
Yeah, or with a bias? Did you think it was fair? And do you think that one side maybe was right and one side was wrong?
No, I think it's pretty fair. I just show in a very objective way, like to reflect the truth. So I think it's pretty fair.
Do you think that that is actually... Well, the thing that stuck out to me is they go to China and they... Maybe we should explain the whole situation. So there are issues with efficiency in the factory that they're starting in the United States. And the person who's starting it, this wealthy man who's starting this factory is kind of upset about the efficiency issues in the factory. And so he sends some of the management over to China to see another one of the factories that he runs. And their minds are blown. The Americans see how everything is done quickly, everything is done at a very high quality standard. People are working 6 days a week. Nobody is complaining. In the morning, they all line up and they do they do all this stuff, and everyone is
like a military.
It looks like the military, and the Americans are just what? Their minds are blown.
About the part that for the Spring Festival party part, annual gatherings and stuff, and it was like they were completely shocked, like how the people perform on the stage because they cannot understand Chinese, right? So they got zero understanding what they were trying to express. They were shocked.
But no, the guy who came from the American factory started crying because
Did he cry?
Yeah, he started crying because he thought he was overwhelmed by the unity of the two companies working within one sort of one company but two countries, and seeing sort of this show that's being put on in part for the Americans to get to sort of understand something about culture. I mean, it wasn't only for them, obviously, but I think he was sort of overwhelmed by the experience, and he said, "We're one." That's what he said. He was going, "We're one. We're one."
Yeah,
he was
that's
crying.
what I remember, but I didn't remember he cried.
Yeah, he was crying.
He was crying?
Well, maybe it was a single tear that came down his face. It might have just
probably
been one.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I remember the words from him. He was saying like, we are in the one world.
Yeah.
But also is a huge diversity.
Yeah.
That's a lot of difference between these two countries. So yeah.
We have to
what he
accept
was
the
trying
differences
to,
and try to
you
work
need
toward a common
accept
goal.
The differences and bring this stuff together.
You're never going to, even with people you know, your friends, you're never going to achieve 100% agreement on anything.
Yeah.
You're never going to think exactly the same way. And you're never going to think that what the other person does is completely acceptable, even if they're from your own country, let alone another country. So I think the lesson from that movie is you just have to accept that that's the way it is, and then try to learn from it and try to appreciate that to them, looking at you, you are just as unusual, just as weird. The things that popped out to me are, number one, so the differences in work style. Americans tend to, as you said, have a strong sense of individuality, and they want to focus on their rights and being protected. And they also, very importantly, value their free time above anything else. So, in other words, don't ask me to work more than 40 hours a week. And I'm just here to make money, and I don't have, my emotions are not really in this that much. I'm here to make money. And that's about it. And if you take steps beyond that, I'm going to feel like you're trying to steal something from me, and I have to do something about it. And for that reason, I think the Americans, a lot of them were leaving or getting upset because they couldn't deal with the Chinese company. They felt the management was being a little too strict asking too much and asking them to do things that they weren't okay with, like work more hours, for example. So then they decided to start a union. But the Chinese management didn't want them to start a union because then a union has a lot of power. They can collectively bargain and get higher wages and things like that. So the company gave them all $2 an hour more, but that didn't make them happy because they wanted to have a union. That's then what I think is the most ironic thing about the movie. The ironic thing about it is here you have Americans who are very individual trying to become collective. They're trying to form a collective group, which is what you think of as sort of a Chinese thing, the whole collective, the group, the whole to get something done. And then you have this Chinese guy who is acting like a, let's say, traditional American wealthy businessman, billionaire. You can't form a union. I'm going to pay you this much money, and that's it. So it was very ironic to me that this super rich guy was behaving more like what we think of as the American capitalist, and the Americans were trying to form a group in a very sort of socialist Chinese way to protect themselves from him.
Yeah.
It's very ironic.
Yeah.
Which means money is the same everywhere.
Is the money? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're having successful business now, right?
I think it's
happening
going
where?
Dayton, Ohio, which is where I'm from. I'm not from Dayton, but I'm from Ohio.
Yeah, I think they're having business pretty well.
Yeah, the business is going well, which is interesting. It's very interesting to see. And then on the Chinese side, I really appreciated how fairly they just showed it as it is. That the efficiency comes from thinking a little bit less of yourself and thinking a little bit more of what am I part of. And if I think about what am I part of, then I'm willing to sacrifice a couple things for the greater good, which is this company's success, putting out a good product, which I think is something that Americans can learn from China.
Yeah.
How to be more efficient, how to understand what the greater good, how to see yourself as part of something rather than me, what can I get, which is a little more selfish.
Yeah.
And I think the film was pretty unbiased and pretty fair.
Yeah. I realized this the detail here, that something that I'm not judging here, but one thing is that the Chinese company brought the business there because a lot of people lost their job because previously the location was for Ford, right?
It was a GM factory, yeah.
And a lot of people lost their job because bankrupt the problem of the previous factory.
Yes, yeah.
And the Chinese people brought the business there, and they're trying to hire the local people and provide the working opportunities, which means that they can get money.
Sure.
And at the very beginning, they were happy that, oh, I got the chance again. I can work again. They were happy in the very beginning.
It was that lady who was living in her sister's basement.
And then after, I don't know, maybe a couple of months, she started like to complaining like it's not fair, like working a lot, the salary is not well paid, and start like all kinds of then it was like when I was watching it, the thing is in China, like when you feel like, for example, when you regain something that you lost previously, and you're gonna feel graceful, that you're gonna feel, I should cherish opportunity. Yeah. I should not like to bring other problems or troubles here because I'm so afraid that I'm gonna lose it again. So it was kind of in my mind like, hey, why the women want to do this stuff like this?
Right.
And then and it came back to me like, hey, maybe it's just the cultural difference. That's in my mind.
Well, what would be the what would be the lady worked at the GM factory. The GM factory closed. She lost her job. She had to sell her house, move into her sister's basement, and have a tiny room. Then she got hired again
and got
from the new factory, and then she got her own apartment, and she was making a smaller salary, but she was still making a much better salary than she was making previously.
Yeah.
$14 an hour, something?
$15
an hour, which is livable. You can live on. It's not a lot, but you can live on that. And then she didn't have much good to say about the working situation. Yeah. And I think she was trying to join the union movement. So what would be the Chinese way of looking at that then?
Well, I mean, since you regain the chance, you get the the new opportunity that you gonna cherish, that you're gonna feel graceful,
Yeah.
and you're gonna work really hard, you know.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna bring a lot of complaints to stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can understand. I can
Mm.
understand it from both
Mhm.
both sides, because you only live one life, and so you also want to try to get as much as you can in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last thing was very interesting, is that finally
Mm.
none of it matters, because robots are coming. At the end of the movie, they walk through the factory.
Mm.
Robot, robot, robot. There
Mhm.
were no people around. They got rid of 30% of the staff, I think, something like that.
Mm.
So the real conclusion of the movie, which is only a little bit there, is
Mm.
this is all of these jobs will go away
Mm.
because of robots,
Yeah.
because of automation. Yeah.
That happened by the end of the movie, right?
Yeah,
But
that's what
one
they
thing
showed.
that I noticed also, since one of the management member, he was showing around the big boss about the robot stuff and
We
and
call
telling
that
him that
automation as well.
automation, that all the employees here are gonna be replaced by the machines and stuff. He was using Chinese, and all the American employees were working there, so because they cannot understand Chinese, so they
Right.
didn't know they're gonna be replaced by machine.
Yes.
So it was kind of a really cruel in a certain way. It's kind of I'm talking something bad on you, but in some other language.
Well, they're not saying bad things about you. They're just saying what's going to happen.
But he was complaining that they were working slowly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I was like, yeah, maybe you. Well, that hurts.
Do you and Mushroom say difficult things in Chinese that I don't understand when we're doing?
No, we didn't.
Mean things
We
about me that I don't
always
understand?
get really decent attitude on you.
Oh yeah.
Always, always.
Thanks,
send
buddy.
My compliments.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah. So watch the movie. It's very interesting. Hey, Lolly Lolly's here.
Mhm. Hey.
It's very worth watching. It's and I would really like you guys, if you do watch it, to leave your comments on what you think about the movie and the cultural differences, and curious what you think about automation as well. And you know Andrew Yang?
No.
So he's a guy who's running for president right now.
Oh, I know him. He promised that every American can get
He
$1,000.
he wants to give every American $1,000 a month
Uh-huh.
because so many jobs are being lost because of automation, robots. Truck drivers will be gone because the trucks are self-driving trucks. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Do you think he can be next American president?
I think he has a chance.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he has a chance.
Wow.
He's growing pretty quickly, actually.
Get a lot of supporters?
I'm an Andrew Yang supporter. I like Andrew Yang.
you
I made a
are.
video about him.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know much about him.
he's
I mean,
he's pretty
only
cool.
learn about the $1,000 stuff.
That's his main thing. That's what he always talks about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if we've got some questions. Guys, if you have any questions about what we've been talking about, Atlas Tang, did you see the movie as well? Greetings from Honduras. Hello. Hey. I always forget how to say her name, but I know her. Levbov?
I cannot really see the questions clearly.
Yeah. So yeah, what do you guys think about work culture differences and things you'd like to learn, for example, about either American culture, business culture, or Chinese culture, whatever you want to know, or English learning? I mean, obviously you can tell when Sam is talking, his English is quite good, maybe even better than mine.
You're joking.
Yeah, I am joking. So if you have English learning questions, we can talk about those too. Okay, yeah. So feel free to ask your questions. Omoa is here from Honduras. Cool beans. And yeah. So do you right now? Do you still actually study English? Do you work on it at all, or not really?
I just use it as skill for my work because I need to use English every day.
Yeah. In what capacity are you?
Like percentage?
In what way?
Like email communication,
email
phone calling,
communication. Okay.
and business meetings and stuff. That's the reason why I fly globally and meeting up with the different people. So yeah.
What would be your tips for reducing communication errors between people when doing international business? Because that's an issue. Well, it's on the phone or email.
Yeah, I mean, the tricky part, I mean, the most difficult thing for me is phone calling.
Yeah, because you have no time
Because
to...
you cannot see each other's face, you only feel the, the voice communication.
I don't like phone calls either.
And you cannot see the facial expressions.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're gonna bring the misunderstanding.
Yeah.
People are gonna thought that you're angry for something, but actually you're not.
Yeah.
So that's pretty tricky for phone calling, meetings and stuff. But I mean, mostly like if you're talking to the people from the country that you're not so familiar with, I would suggest that trying to cool down and trying to listening more, and or do some research to know specifically stuff that you need to pay attention to, or the way how they communicate.
Yeah.
That can help to have a smoothie communication.
Yeah. And would you say also, this is one I've noticed, not being afraid to say when you don't understand something?
Oh yeah.
Like saying, sorry, can you say that again? I didn't catch it. Or could you please repeat that? Or
I use it all the time.
Yeah.
Especially during the phone calling meeting. And I would tell them, because the signal in China sometimes, I mean, for the international calling, the signal going to be bad.
Yeah.
So trying to express in a slow way so we don't have to repeat the sentence all the time. And yeah, I mean, it works properly.
Yeah, so
if you just send the notification.
It's much better to say, sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you repeat it? And not worry about looking silly for a moment. It's much better to do that than to think that you understand when you're not sure, and then say something really dumb that has nothing to do with what you should be saying because you'd actually misunderstood.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even in Chinese, sometimes I talk to Mashu, I ask her like what you're saying and can you repeat again?
Me too.
So
Maybe I'm eating chips on a call and the chip sounds are so loud in my ears I didn't hear what the other person said.
So it's not the problem. Just
that's a joke.
If you're
I don't
not
need
so
chips
sure,
during calls.
If you're not so sure, just ask like, pardon or stuff.
Don't say what. Don't say that.
Don't say what.
Don't say what. That's a rude one. When it's really noisy and you can't hear, you can say what, but that's usually rude. The phrases that we use.
Pardon.
Pardon. Could you repeat that? Would you mind repeating that?
Can you say it again?
Can you say that again? Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat that? Those would be the common phrases that I would use. And not only for English learners. I mean, I use it too. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Email?
Email. Well, I use the Grammarly.
Yes. Use Grammarly.
That's a really good app. I mean, it's I didn't purchase the service.
Me neither.
I use the basic.
Can I type here?
I think so, right?
Yeah, go ahead. What do you like about it?
It helps you to correct the grammar mistake that sometimes that you cannot notice, and you're gonna fix the spelling problems and stuff. So gonna help a lot to improve your, your writing performance, to avoid some mistake or unnecessary mistake that you're gonna make.
And the free version is really, really good.
Yeah, I think it's enough, as long as that you're not writing an essay or. Even
if you're doing that, but yeah, you're right. So if you don't have Grammarly, you can check Lolly typed the word out there. You can use it for your computer. You can download it as an app. You can even add it into your keyboard for your phone. So actually, I've added it to my keyboard. And I use it too. Correct spelling issues. One common thing for emails, especially for Chinese people. I'm not saying it's you because you wouldn't do this, but when there's a space in front of a period or a comma, and no space after, or maybe one space before and one space after, it drives me absolutely crazy.
Oh.
And Grammarly would notice that and say, okay, fix that. It notices simple grammatical issues like, hey, this is not a full sentence. It won't tell you how to make the sentence, but at least it will say, that's not a correct sentence. That's not a full sentence.
Yeah, That app is really helpful.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Milton says, how do you pronounce either, like either or either? Yeah. How do you say it?
Either.
Either? Do you say either?
Either.
Do you say
No,
either or either?
Either. Either way.
Either way?
Yeah.
I think I do both.
I do either.
I think I say both.
Oh. One is a British accent.
um,
One is, right?
Either is definitely American.
Uh-huh.
And I think either is more British. I tend to say both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. But for neither and neither, I pretty much always use neither rather than neither.
I say neither.
So you say me neither?
Uh-huh.
Me neither. That sounds weird to me. I mean, it's correct, but it sounds strange to say, oh, me neither. Me neither. I always say me neither. Maybe that's just an American thing. So either, either, both are okay. Neither maybe more American sounding. Neither more British.
More British.
More Sam sounding.
My sounding. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people just send a message there.
Same guy who asked the last question. Milton says, Sam, I have a question for you. What do you do when people talk to you in English or ask you something and in the conversation you suddenly don't know a few words? So how do you cope with that? That's a really good question. That's a really good question.
I mean,
by the way, you should ask me too because I have the same issue.
I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
So, well, that's a really good question.
Very good and detailed question.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes that, I mean, before, like when I was learning English, it happened. So if I 80% sure what the people was trying to express, I would just let it go.
Let it go.
I would just let it go because I feel like 80 or 90% of the sentence or the stuff that you want to express.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would not let the words that I don't understand to, stop my thoughts. But if the words are really crucial, that's gonna really affect your understanding of the meaning, then I would just ask like, pardon, or I don't really follow the question or words that you want trying to say. So yeah, that's my way.
One suggestion would be, because it's okay to be wrong and it's okay to misunderstand things. So if you have an 80% understanding, then you think you understand. The best thing to do would be to say, so you mean, and then explain it as you think it means. Try to explain it as you understand it. If you're wrong, then they'll say, no, I mean, and then they'll repeat themselves again.
Yeah.
But if you're 80% sure, you're probably not wrong.
Yeah.
So then they'll say, yes, that's right. And so then you have this great handshake sort of situation where you've said it and they've said yes to what you said, so you're sure that you're right. And they also feel, wow, this guy's really listening to me. He really pays attention to me, and he really, is trying to process what I'm saying. So say something like, so do you mean that? Or so are you saying that?
Yeah.
Or so let me make sure I understand. You're saying, and then just restate it. You don't have to say it in exactly the same words, but just say it as you want to say it, as you think it should be said. And that is usually a good way to resolve. Actually, that's a good tip in general. That's a good thing to do even when you understand 100%.
Yeah.
Because it shows the other person, oh, this person was really paying attention to me. They're really listening. I get it. And also, they are saying, by saying, yes, that's right, they are agreeing to your framing of whatever it is, your way of understanding
Yeah,
it.
you got the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good way. I mean, always can ask, like, to confirm if you get the right idea.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't hurt.
What does take for granted mean? Says Luai Awad. Sorry about that. Is that right? Can that be right? Luai says,
take for granted.
what does take someone for granted mean?
Take someone for granted.
I certainly know what that means because I feel that way all the time. Ever since yesterday.
Oh. Well, I moved in the day before yesterday, so it's not my thing.
I mean the day before yesterday.
Then that's my issue.
Sam, I feel that you take me for granted. I really do, and it makes
I
me.
didn't.
It
I
makes
really,
me sad.
No, I really appreciate everything that you do for me.
But I don't feel it. I need
Okay.
gifts.
You need you ate my mooncakes.
Yes, that's right.
You-
I need more
You
gifts.
didn't ask my opinion. You just took them. You just ate them.
Wait a second. I thought those were for me.
No, it's for mushroom.
Are you serious? Oh,
I'm
well, they're mushrooms
serious.
mooncakes?
Yeah, it's
Well, then I
mushroom.
can take them from mushroom. That's
Okay.
my wife. I can take all of her mooncakes. I don't care.
We're joking here. Yeah.
Okay, so what would you say it means to take someone for granted?
Take somebody for granted. You wanted me to explain?
Yeah,
or-
you can explain.
Well, wow, it's hard. Take something for granted.
Take someone for
Take
granted. Well, it's the same
someone for
thing. It's the same
granted.
meaning. Yeah.
That's put in a very specific circumstance.
Okay.
Like for example, Luke let me stay in his apartment for like 7 days, and I even didn't say thank you. I was just like,
Yeah, whatever. You should
yeah,
do that.
you should do that.
Yeah,
I
you
deserve
live
it.
your idea.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, it's my right. So, which means that I take him for granted.
So cold. So cold.
But I didn't. I mean, just in under.
Oh, yeah, you're right. No. Listen, Sam bought me a Gatorade yesterday.
No, I didn't.
Oh, wait, no. But you tried to.
I tried to. I tried to.
No. Yeah, so that's a very good example. If that were true, which it's not true, if that were true, then Sam would just assume, of course I can stay here. I don't even need to ask, hey, I'm coming to New York, get the sofa bed ready, that sort of thing. And then if you feel like someone has taken you for granted, that might not be a good feeling. So whenever you take things for granted, maybe you take advantage of them. We can also use take advantage of. In a negative way, take advantage means you use something or someone more than you should. One good meaning of take advantage of, the positive meaning would be you use it. You have things, your education, your access to information, your relationships with maybe important people. You should take advantage of those relationships, those resources, and that access. That's a good meaning. Negative meaning is, yeah, you can stay for a week. You're moving to New York. You're looking for an apartment. You need to stay for a week while you're looking. Absolutely. 3 months later, listen. I think that you're starting to really take advantage of my generosity here. It's been 3 months. You said you were staying for a week. It's time to go.
It's time to leave.
Yeah. So take advantage of and take for granted are similar. One thing though, take for granted is similar to well. So take advantage of something means to exploit it. Take advantage in the negative meaning is to exploit, as you said, Loai. But the positive meaning of to take something for granted, or the other meaning of take something for granted is slightly different. It's sort of like not grateful for what you already have. So do you ever walk to your sink and then just turn it on, get some water and drink it? You didn't even think about that. But in some places in the world, you can't just do that. You can't just turn on the water and drink it and know that it's clean and it's healthy. So you kind of just take for granted that the water is going to be clean. But in lots of places in the world, that's a rare thing. That's a luxury. That's something that, wow, that's amazing. And so, for example, living in a developed country like China or the United States, we probably take a lot of things for granted.
Yeah.
We probably do.
Yeah.
That people who live in harder situations don't have. And that's another great thing about travel. When you visit those places, you realize how maybe sometimes lucky you are to
Yeah. You gotta
be able
realize
to
how lucky you are.
turn on the water,
You
or
have a clean water.
yeah, that's I think a big one. Clean water. I drink clean bleach. This was my breakfast. Clorox bleach. I drink, but it's very clean. It cleans and protects surfaces,
Yeah.
and also cleans and protects.
Yeah.
my-
You can help
my
a lot
stomach.
with your
Yeah,
body system.
yeah. I drink this
clean
like
up the
Gatorade.
I'm gonna take some tomorrow morning. Can help a lot.
Okay, I think we can take another question.
Uh-huh.
Children often take their parents for granted. Yep,
Yeah.
that's a good example. And I think then when children grow up and have their own kids, then they realize how much they've taken their parents for granted.
Yeah,
and then they start to appreciate their parents.
Yeah.
Oh wow, my parents really struggled to not make me miserable. I remember one time when I was a kid, I used to, every time I took a shower, demand to use a new towel, brand new towel, fresh and clean every time. Every shower, after the shower, I must have a totally fresh and new towel.
Wow.
And my parents said to me when I was a kid, you know, you could probably take a couple showers, 3 or 4 days, or maybe even more, and use the same towel, and then we can wash it. When we wash a towel every time you use it, it uses a lot of water, a lot of electricity. That's quite expensive. And at the time I thought, come on, why? What?
You can't afford
it. What's wrong with you guys? But now I realize, oh my God, I was
It's
a
the wrong thing.
spoiled little shit. Yeah.
You're really spoiled when you were a little kid.
No, I wasn't that spoiled, but the towel, I was towel spoiled. Yeah. Okay, we have, I think, one more question here. Not value fully. Fully. That's a good word. That's a very interesting word. Admit or concede. Lolly, what do you mean by admit or concede? Or what's the maybe you mean what's the difference between them? Is there a difference between admit and concede?
What's the difference?
Well, they can be the same.
Admit and concede.
How about this? Maybe concede is, well, what do you think? You want to try that one? Or?
I mean, admit is a word that we, in a less formal way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I admit that I made the mistake.
Concede is definitely more formal, for sure. Yeah. Well, let's say, okay, concede would be if we're having an argument, and I say finally, all right, you win, whatever, I don't want to argue anymore. Then I concede. It doesn't necessarily mean I think you're right, but I sort of say, all right, you can have this one. You can win this one. I concede. So to concede the point is to just sort of give up to someone, and then admit is sort of like I did something wrong, and then I say that I did it wrong. So maybe I used your phone charger cable, and you said, "Is that mine?" I said, "No, it's not. It's not yours. It's mine." And you said, "No, I put mine there. That must be mine." And I say, "No, it's not mine." And then you say, "No, look, see, it has my name on it, Sam." Oh yeah. So I have to admit that I did take it. Then you've accused me of something, and I've said, "Yeah, I guess that's true." I've admitted it. So that's sort of admit is on me something negative, and I say, "Yeah, maybe so." Not only for things about myself, but it can be for other things too. But that's a good way to look at it. And concede is like a disagreement between two people, or some sort of issue between two people, and one side gives up and says the other side can win.
It's kind of a word that you can use in the court.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
That's a pretty serious word.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
For sure. I think we can take one more question.
We can take one more.
Yeah, let's take one more question. How do you use words like abduct, divest, arbitrary, and impeach? How do you use words like abduct, divest, arbitrary, and impeach? Okay, I've never used the word divest before, so let's not focus on that one. I've never used it before in my entire life. Arbitrary, abduct, and impeach. So let's talk about those three. Abduct just means to take somebody. So for example, sometimes children are abducted, and it's really scary. So you have to contact the police right away. If your child is abducted, contact the police. We also use abduct for aliens. An alien abduction is when you get lifted into a spaceship and they poke you and they I think they put things in your butt, and that's what people say. And they take your hands off and put them back on, and then they put you back in your bed. It's an alien abduction. Have you ever been abducted?
No.
Yeah. They tried to abduct me once, but I held onto a tree, and so the beam was pulling me up, and I was holding onto the tree, and my shoes came off. So they got my shoes, but I held so tightly onto the tree that finally they just gave up and they flew away.
Oh, that's a good experience.
Yeah, it was really scary. It was really scary. It was really scary. But I lost those shoes forever.
Wow,
yeah.
They must be really nice shoes.
But the shoes went shoop, up. So my shoes are probably on an alien planet right now, somewhere far, millions of light years away.
They're gonna use the DNA inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Wow, humans are really smelly. Yeah. Oh, God. Okay, and then the other one was arbitrary and impeach. Let's say arbitrary just means there's no logical reason for it to be there. If we make an arbitrary decision, then it means it could have been anything. Yes or no, or let's go or let's not go. It's arbitrary. It has no connection to anything logical that came right before it. So we often say an arbitrary decision. An arbitrary decision. Sort of like random in a way. And then impeach. No, I don't often use the word arbitrary. I don't often use the word abduct unless I'm talking about my alien abduction story, which I've shared for the first time publicly. And I don't use the other word, which was
impeach.
Divest. I never use, and impeach. But impeach is a word that comes up a lot now because of the whole Trump thing. Have you read about? Did you read about the?
Give me a sentence.
Donald Trump might be impeached. They started impeachment hearings a couple days ago for Donald Trump. Yeah, it's an impeachment inquiry. So impeach is to remove someone from a formal office, like the presidency. Only, I think, 2 presidents have ever been impeached. And they're trying to, some people are trying to impeach Donald Trump now, which means to remove him from office. It won't happen, but they're trying to. An impeachment is the noun form. And it's only used nowadays in the case of talking about a president or someone in a very high office. It used to be used to say something like, oh, you've impeached my character, or something like that. But we don't use it like that anymore. That's something you would read maybe in an old book. Yeah. Thanks for all the questions, guys. We appreciate it. Good to see all of you here again. Get the hang of something, learn the ropes. What's the difference? Yeah, not really a difference. Get the hang of something means you feel comfortable with it, you learn it by doing it, and learn the ropes is very similar. You learn something by doing. So I would say those two are pretty much exactly the same. Good question, Lolly Lolly. Good questions, everybody. I appreciate it. If you have any other questions, just leave them in the comments, and we'll try to include them in a future live class. And also make sure to check out the other video that Sam and I did 2 years ago. It's in the video history. You can check that out. And otherwise, if you want to chat or have free talk or whatever, we can do that in the Cloud English Facebook group. And also, if you like the video, don't forget to give it a like. So hit the like, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe as well. And that's about all. Guys,
yeah.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for the questions.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.